see. Going live. Live. We're live. All right. Assalamu alaikum. Salam, everybody. My name is Mustafa, and I'm frozen. Okay. Salam. My name is Mustafa. I am the solo game developer of Sabr Path. This is the Sabr Path channel. And so that means the channel name is Sabr Path. My name is not Sabr Path. My name is Mustafa. What was this? Let's mute that. Mute that. Okay, good. Anyways, for those of you new to the channel, I talk about gaming related topics, game industry topics. Sometimes I go outside of that, but for the most part, I want to try to stay within gaming and entertainment. And I have worked in the game industry. I have done administrative work. I've done QA work. I've done solo game development, game design. I've worked on a game that I've published on Steam. I'm trying to get back to working on my second game on Steam. I have done a year of adjunct faculty. Do I hear something? Hold on, let me. Okay, no, I don't hear anything. I wanted to make sure. Anyways, yeah, I've taught in college for a year now. I've taught design-related topics, subjects, taught game testing, game intro to game development and design. Last class I taught was design communication, which is like a graphics design. Graphic communication. Yeah, it's a graphics design course. So, anyways, that's a little bit about me. And if you're new, I also leave timestamps after the recording is over. I add timestamps, and so you can skip through the intro, hit the timestamp if I'm getting too long to talk about the main topic. I'm going to talk about other stuff before the main topic because I try to let the chat populate. I like to have people in the chat as I'm talking about the main topic, so that's why I talk about other things before I get to the main topic. So feel free to skip ahead if you're watching this afterwards. So that's that. And yeah, I mean, hopefully you stick around if you're new. So anyways, the main topic for today. Let me. I thought I had this in mind. Before I went live, I was like, okay, I should grab the. Hey, good morning, Cosgrove. How you doing? Glad to see you here. So let me grab the image for. Let's go to add context to this. So let me go to this. Go to X. So I'm going to talk about a video by Del Walker. Del Walker viral image. One second. Sorry about that. I had all these other stuff saved in my notes, but I forgot to add this. Del Walker. Sorry about that. I apologize. Now I'm getting all these Walker, Texas Ranger stuff because okay, let me instead. Okay, anyways, let's forget about that. So basically, or actually, let me go to his people. There we go. Am I spelling his name right? Let me go to my other. Yeah, I apologize for not being prepped in time. Like I said, if you're watching this recording, There we go. The Cartel Del. That's what he goes by. The Cartel Del. So let me open that. Cartel Del viral image media. Because he went really viral when he put out this image showing like his complaints about pitching character design, female character design, and how they come back being uglified. Cartel Del uglified women image images. Let me go search Google. Google.com. Well, let me do this. Sorry about that. Anyways, how you doing, Cosgrove? Let me know what's going on. What's going on in life? I should have had the. I don't know. I just completely forgot about this. Show, Mel Walker, aka the image about uglified. Okay, all right. I'm gonna have Gemini search for me, but while that's going on, let me get back on track to talking about the live stream. Sorry about that. You know, just me not being prepped. I don't know why. I totally forgot about getting the context to help talk about what's going on, but or the main topic. Let me see if this found anything. Not yet. Okay, so first of all, I want to say Eid Mubarak to all the Muslims who fasted during Shahr Ramadan. Hopefully you've grown. You've had a month of growth and self discipline and personal development. And congratulations for completing the month, and also hopefully you had a very good Eid, good celebration with friends and family. Here we go. Now I got it. Anyways, I'll open this up to the side. All right, here's the viral image. Okay, here we go. All right, so I got the context now. So anyways, yeah, I got that. Aside from that, let me get this on screen. So, I think it was maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago, I mentioned that I did a presentation for computer engineering engineers of next generation, CENG, and the presentation is now online. In fact, I'll put the link in a second, but let me share screen. Let's share screen over here. Transition. All right, so here you go. Computer engineers of next generation. There I am. Look at me. So this was posted 4 days ago. So I'm gonna add this to the chat. If you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it. Nothing really too special. Basically, I talk about my background. I talk about it was the audience are a bunch of kids, like little kids, like elementary school aged kids, and so it wasn't like a deep presentation. It was basically to get the kids, like an understanding of a professional's journey through learning coding, especially since all of them are interested in game development. They wanted to have a game developer talk about journey of learning the code and using design choices to get through the hurdles of coding. So it was just very straightforward presentation. It'll end up being 30 minutes long. I was supposed to be 20 minutes long. But if you want to check it out, link is in the chat. Yeah, give it a like. But they cut out an image. So I had an image right here. They edited it out because what happened is I'm holding. So this picture is me at Treyarch. In fact, let me pull it up real quick. Whoops. Uh-oh. Go back. Didn't mean to show that on screen. All right, let me do this. File. Okay, you go over here. And let me go to images. Let's go to profile pics. Is that there? No. Let me go to this folder over here. Pics of me. Where is it at? Video. Pics of me is in this folder. There we go. Yeah. So this is the picture I have. Me holding a prop gun at Treyarch. And I wasn't sure what, like, at first I was like, is that on my end that the picture didn't show up? But I asked them and they said they edited it out because legally they're not supposed to show any like depictions of guns and stuff like that. So that's why they edited it out. I was like, whoops, I didn't know you guys didn't want that. I would have included it then if I knew otherwise. But yeah, let me show that again. Yeah, it was just this image, me holding a prop. It's not even a real gun. It's a prop gun from the game, Black Ops 3. But I just talk about the games I worked on, the projects I worked on, going through college, what I've worked on in college, my journey of improving with coding. You're just trying to talk about the relevant stuff. Anyways, that's it. But let's switch back, transition back. Anything? What is what I got? Oh yeah, while I have it on the screen, let me put this. So right now it's Steam Spring Sale. Let's transition back here. Steam Spring Sale. So 30% off. $3.49 for Nexus Defenders. I mean, it's dirt cheap. I end up making, I think, around $2. So if you buy this, I get $2. But if you already own this, please leave a review. I'd really appreciate it if you left a review. That would be really helpful. It's a tower defense game. Let's get the trailer going. Yeah, tower defense game that if you like games like Defense Grid, then you'll probably like this game. It's very similar to Defense Grid. A little bit different though. It's not like a carbon copy, but it's very heavily inspired by Defense Grid. It has more of a story, and yeah. It is short though. That seems to be the main complaint that people have in the negative reviews. There aren't many negative reviews. Most of the reviews are positive, but in the negative reviews, some people complain that the game's too short. There are 7 story levels and 1 survival mode level. The survival mode level is procedurally generated, so it's random as far as what enemies you get, and supposed to add more replay value. But I mean, it'll take you maybe about 4 to 6 hours to beat the game, depending on how many times you lose, because it does get difficult near the end. Last few levels get challenging. That's what some of the people have said. Anyways, Anything else I want to mention before I get to the main topic? Okay, nothing. All right, that seems to be all my notes. Let me close out some windows and let's add, let's see, about 15 minutes in. Main topic, 15, 30, main topic. All right, let's save it. And let's get this on screen. All right, so let's talk about Del Walker. Let's get him on screen. We're gonna watch his video. 1 second. Where'd it go? There it is. All right, switch over. So, no, this is bounding into comics. So yeah, so we have Del Walker. This guy. In fact, let me get his account on here. There we go. All right, so there's Del Walker. So, okay, the cartel that he looks like he changed his thing because it had like he listed off all the stuff he worked at. So he has worked at Rocksteady, at Naughty Dog. Like he's here we go. Here's some big games he's worked on. Halo Wars 2, which is the RTS game. Suicide Squad. Last of Us Part 2 remastered. Jedi Survivor. I guess these are like the biggest titles he's worked on. So he's worked on some big titles. And he did go viral because of so he started talking about how he would pitch. I have no clue who this woman is. Who is Buki Saka's girlfriend? No clue who I don't know who any of these people are. Anyways, so he made this tweet talking about her, how he would pitch images of. So this entire thing is an example. This is not an actual thing he pitched, but an example would be he'd pitch a woman that looks like her, and then when it comes back around, they say, no, make someone who looks more like this. And yeah, he basically got in trouble for making this tweet because it appealed to the wrong audience. So he ended up deleting the tweet because the fact that even though he was speaking his mind, people told him, "Hey, cut it out. Stop talking this mess." Let me. So let's. Anyway, so he started a YouTube video or a YouTube channel. Let's close these out. I do follow him on X. I think despite him, kind of like taking back his words and saying, "Hey, I shouldn't have said that," and then deleting it. I think he does post some very insightful things on the gaming industry. Even though, so yes, I do have experience in the game industry, but his experience is far different than mine, especially since he was more in the development pipeline than me. I worked in development. I didn't in AAA. I didn't work in the development pipeline. I did work in the development pipeline in like software development when I was in Zwift. But just very different experience than him. And due to him being like a higher level artist, he definitely was in meetings that I never was in. So it's very insightful for me to check out what he has to say, especially since he has an ability to explain technical stuff really well. So I think he's overall a very smart guy. And that's why I follow him. And he started a new channel. He already has 1,000 subs instantly. Like he started it very recently. He posted this 3 days ago. Already has 1,000 subs, so he's already monetized. Congrats to him. Obviously, he's going to have a very successful channel. But I saw this posted. I was like, oh, I'll do a reaction video to this. I want to see what he has to say. And I'll add my commentary onto this. So let me know if you're having any issues hearing it. Okay, so first of all, I got to turn on audio. And let's see.
Video games.
I think I might have to higher.
I
think I might have to higher the volume up a little bit. Give me 1 second. So let's higher this. And let's go here. 1 second. Okay.
It's getting a lot harder to fund video games. Not because less money exists in the world, but because fewer projects are being funded. And at the same time, the projects that do get funded are bigger and more expensive than ever. So the industry's created this really weird situation where we get fewer bets, but each bet is massive.
Yeah. This is definitely something I talk about in my videos. Is that a lot of these studios are getting bigger and bigger. They have hundreds and hundreds of employees. And that's where most of the budget goes. Most of the budget goes towards paying the employees and contractors. And I mean, for some reason, a lot of these studios are, rather than splitting up the focus on multiple games, they're focusing on one bet, one project, like as he put it, they're putting on into one bet. Like when I was at Treyarch, we were just working on Black Ops 4. Before I was at Treyarch, so the way how Treyarch was split, Treyarch was split into multiple sections. You have one group that, it still is. I believe it still is. But you have one group that's working on the multiplayer maps. Like they purely work on multiplayer. You have another group that's working on campaign and zombies. Like once they're done working on campaign, they work on zombies maps. And they probably have another team working on the Warzone map, or I don't know if Warzone's part. No, Warzone's a separate game. Anyways, point being, like you have like these different sections of the studio working on different projects, and before they were told to just work on Black Ops. You'd have like one team working on like Spider-Man and another team working on Call of Duty. So you had multiple teams working on different things. So if we look at Treyarch, let's open up the Wikipedia page real quick. Treyarch wasn't just Call of Duty. See, as you can see, at a certain point, they became just Call of Duty. But they'd have like one team working on Web of Shadows, another team working on Quantum of Solace, another team working on World at War. So these all came out the same year, and that's because of the fact that they had multiple teams, multiple parts of the studio. The studio is broken up into different sections, and this is how it used to be. Now it's like you have hundreds and hundreds of people working on one thing. Let's get back to this.
So massive, in fact, that failure isn't really survivable anymore. And with low survival, the middle disappears. That's partially why games probably feel different now. Because I see us spending a lot of time talking about which games are the best. And there's just as much dialogue about what games failed catastrophically. But I'm not really seeing that many people talk about what games don't even really get like attempted anymore. Games that you remember from the past that don't really have like a modern equivalent.
I love Def Jam Fight for New York. That game was so fun. It was stupid, but it was fun. It was totally broken as far as characters having stats. Like some characters were just so busted compared to others. Like Snoop Dogg was top tier because he had higher stats. Hey Liam, how's it going? Thanks for joining. I appreciate you joining.
The 10-hour titles that used to get multiple sequels back in the day.
Yeah.
The titles that were never going to win Game of the Year, but they were certified bangers. But probably would now struggle to get a pitch meeting with investors. And I feel like it's time to talk about why.
I mean, just to guess at the moment, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's probably going to say what I was just talking about, the fact that you know, the studios are so large at this point that they need to. I mean, this is the thing I talk about on the channel a lot of time, is that the studios are getting so large that they need to make so much money in return to recuperate the costs of funding it, and it's unrealistic. So that's why everything has become like a live service game now, because live service games make so much more money than just a single player game. But we'll see what he has to say. Let's take a listen. Broken games can be fun. Devs forget that sometimes. Yeah, definitely. Game does not need to be perfect.
Because the games industry isn't just picking winners. It's choosing who's allowed to play.
Wonder what he means by that. Who's allowed to play?
This is only going to work if I explain my biases. I've worked in the video games industry for over 15 years now.
This is interesting. I don't know why he decides to record this part outdoors. He's like, yeah, look at me. I'm not a nerd who stays indoors.
I've worked in the UK. I've worked in the US. I've worked on small games. I've worked on big games. I've worked on some big hits. I have worked on some big flops. I've worked on remakes. I've worked on app.
I appreciate that he is willing to admit that Suicide Squad is a flop. I think that's very. I think that helps his credibility. GoldenEye was made by 14 devs in 2.5 years. Now it's thousands of devs, over 16 plus years for big games. Indie devs are now the size of old AAA devs. Yeah. I believe GoldenEye, at least part of, I think maybe the multiplayer, they developed it in secret. And they didn't reveal to the publisher that they had it done. They were working on it until they had it done, because they knew that it was going to get canned if they told them that what they were working on.
Games. I've worked on games that never shipped. I have also worked on main characters myself.
Whoa. Let's look at that again. Last of Us on that
I've
image.
worked on games.
Who's that? Who are these characters? Like, these are the random online people
that never shipped. I have also worked on main characters myself, and I've led external development teams. So I am coming from this from the point of view of an insider with perhaps a distorted perspective, but I do keep seeing the same patterns. And the biggest pattern of all, that seems to be the deciding factor as to what games are getting made now and what games aren't, is scale.
All right, to understand why the middle is disappearing, we kind of have to look at how game budgets have changed. So like 20 years ago, a big 3D console games development, PS2 budgets, they varied wildly. Some were under $1 million, others were climbing in the 10 to 15 million range. But even in the high end of that era, that's like a fraction of what AAA requires now. GTA 3 reportedly cost around 5 million. Gears of War was 12. And that's really when the term AAA started getting really thrown around in games. But back then, that term meant double-digit millions. Now, in the US, anything like under like 65 million is considered mid-range. AA just means yesterday's AAA budget, because by the time we get to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, now we're at $100 million. Callisto Protocol, that's $160 million. Spider-Man 2 reportedly was $300 million. That is not normal inflation.
Yeah, that is definitely like what I'm glad he did mention that at the end, because I wanted to mention that inflation is not the entire story. Because if you do, you account for inflation, yeah, the numbers are going to go up, but we're going to the triple digits. Also, I wanted to cut in because I don't want this video to get demonetized because he has music in the background, and I realized, oh, he has. I should probably start cutting in more.
We're in a different universe now.
So what actually happened? Why would the same kind of game that used to make money suddenly become impossible to fund? The answer is just maths.
2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3, quick maths.
In the
I love the fact you threw that in there.
early 2000s, if you built a new 3D console game that was a new IP for like $6 to $8 million, and you sold 2 million units at $50 retail, you were probably in strong shape. Even after distribution, manufacturing, overhead, there was probably still a margin. There was sequel potential. Now,
that sequel is garbage, though. I mean, what he said is true, but that was a garbage sequel. Nintendo did well for Game Boy line, gave devs lower cost option to make all games. Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. Retail games had far lower margins. The interesting thing, though, the very interesting thing about retail games having far lower margins is that it was harder for developers to get games on store shelves due to, you got to print the discs, you have to have a publishing deal, you have to distribute the games, and now it's far easier to distribute games due to digital distribution being a norm. It is a norm now, but despite that, I have a game on Steam. It's available right now. And despite that, we still have, these higher costs for games, especially the AAA games. And, I'm pretty sure he's going to go into the fact that they're going into, larger studios. But there's a large reason for this, for the larger studios, is because they're not using modular design that well. I think that's probably, I'm going to guess that's probably one thing he's going to mention, is that when, like, for myself, I have to use modular design to kind of just reuse the same stuff to make new levels. Like modular design, basically, like, for example, using the same assets more often, but just rearrange them in a different way, just so that I have a unique level. Games these days, like such as Ubisoft games, they want to have like all these unique assets. They want to have far less modular design, and as a result, they have to outsource and pay so many artists to make so many assets. But so let's see what he has to say.
imagine a modern production quality equivalent in the US. You might not want it to cost $100 million, but because audience expectations have shifted, if it's not a sequel or a remake, they're going to want a reason to pay attention. They need high fidelity art, full performance capture, cinematic presentation. Even if you hold that budget, for $100 to $120 million, all in, including marketing somehow, which is conservative for AAA, at $70 retail price after a typical 30% platform fee, taxes, possible engine royalties if you didn't make your own game engine, which most people don't, post-launch support. Your net per copy might land somewhere around $40 digitally. And that 2 million.
So one thing that you mentioned a little bit earlier is about the expectations going up. I think that is an inflated or exaggerated issue because there's always going to be the people. He did show screenshots of people saying, "Oh, graphics are horrible," but there's always going to be people who complain about everything, and you're never going to make everybody happy. I think overall, stop moving. I think overall, when you have something that's fun and like compelling, if it doesn't have the best graphics or it doesn't have the the best motion capture, cutscenes, all that stuff they listed off, people will still be happy as long as the product was fun. All those things that add to the budget in which a few people complain about, is it worth it to add the hundreds of millions of dollars to the budget just because let's say 10 to 20% of the audience complain about it? I don't think that's I don't think that justifies it. If anything, it's a bigger risk because you're adding hundreds of millions just for pleasing, 20% at best, 20% of the audience, because there's always going to be people who complain. There's going to be people who complain about everything. Oh, the game's too short. The game's too long. The graphics are, not smooth enough. It's not artistic enough. Some people will be like, okay, it's too uncanny. It's not realistic enough. Or some people will say, yeah, it's realistic, so it looks like every other game. It's not stylized enough. There's always going to be complaints. People always complain. I always think it's art style over graphics. Games like Stardew Valley seem to do well. Yeah, I agree with you. Moigama 5019. Glad you made it to the chat. Welcome. How you doing? Yeah, Liam, I agree with you that having like a stylized look definitely helps the game in the long term because it won't date the game as hard. It helps the game become more timeless. So I agree with you. And also, the gameplay loop. So these things that he mentioned earlier. Like the motion capture, all that stuff, like that's to appease, a small portion of the audience. So I get what he's saying, but I feel like that is not a valid reason to increase the increase the budget. Give me 1 second. Let me transition back to this. Let me go to my other screen and mute my emails because my email inbox just went pring. So let me mute that. 1 second. Mute tab or mute site. Yeah, mute tab. Let's mute tab. And let me go back here. Let's go back. All right. Let's transition back. All right, let's see what he has to say. All right.
In copies, that's roughly $80 million back.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're underwater.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you might have the long tail sales. You got the discounts. You got the DLC. You got the regional pricing that might move the number around. But ultimately, your chances of winning are just way more difficult now. So a game that once was like a clean success, now that game needs to sell dramatically more copies just to break even.
We sold fewer copies of Just Cause 4 on launch than we expected. Well, I mean, because the thing with Just Cause, I mean, Just Cause 2 was crazy. It put Just Cause on the map, and then Just Cause 3, it's like, yeah, it's the same craziness, but then once Just Cause 4 came out, people were like, do we need another one of these? Yeah, the graphics are better, but do we need another one? When Just Cause 2 was good enough. Like, increasing the graphics is not enough to bring the people back to buy the next one. Like, Just Cause 2 was good. But Enix always say they sold. Yes, yeah, they did. It's their catchphrase. You're right, Liam. That's what they said about Tomb Raider, which sold well.
And costs didn't grow 2x. They grew 10x. But game sales didn't. And that's messing everything up.
Yeah.
Because the industry ceiling just got higher and higher. But the middle did not. Yeah.
Yeah, like the sales numbers are about the same, like barely larger. Dead Rising 4 compared to Dead Rising 1. And that also goes back to, I mean, we should also see what the numbers are for Dead Rising 2 and 3. I'm pretty sure that those numbers are different, but when it gets to like the fourth in a series, fourth, fifth, sixth game, of course there's exceptions like Call of Duty, but if you get to like the fourth game, just like what I just said about Just Cause 4, are the people interested in the fourth one of the same thing? Because these type of games, like Just Cause, Dead Rising, these are like sandbox games where you just kind of have fun and do goofy things, and then you beat the game and go through all the quests, the missions. But for the most part, these type of games, they're just like fun games that you just enjoy the mechanics. And how much are they going to add to the gameplay that's going to make it significantly different? Like Dead Rising 1 was already fantastic. How much more weapons and stuff are they going to add to the game by the fourth game that's going to make it drastically different? And with it being an open world, especially with it being an open world sandbox, it's not like a game like Devil May Cry, where you can add platforming levels and kind of add more variety to the gameplay. All right, let's see what you guys are saying right here. Oh, I see deleted messages. Oh no, deleted messages. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying. 10-year gap, though, that's a big problem. You need to follow up a game in a few years, or the audience is lost. They move on. Well, this is a 10-year gap, but it's the fourth game.
Not.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes, you can probably name a few handful of blockbusters that expanded dramatically, but most titles did not scale proportionally to their cost growth. So now any and every genre has become some outrageous risk.
Yeah.
I think people still think, why don't you just all make your games just cheaper? But it's actually quite difficult when you factor in the expectations and the complexity mixed with like how long the timelines are to make a game now.
I mean, like I said earlier, it doesn't change what I just said about the expectations. Lower the expectations. It doesn't matter if a portion of the audience expects the game to look like whatever. Good example. Crimson Desert just came out, and people are comparing that to Red Dead 2, saying, "Oh, look at this. The people mining in Crimson Desert are just hitting rocks, but the people building a railroad in Red Dead 2, you can see them hammering the nails in." like that's such a small minority of people who are complaining about that. Yeah, you're gonna find people complaining about that, but that's not that's not the majority of the audience. That's just like a really small vocal minority. In fact, their voice is only being amplified because people are pointing out, look how ridiculous these people's expectations are. Or I saw this other thing, I think it was just last week. It was comparing walking through a cloth in Resident Evil Requiem versus walking through a hanging cloth in Red Dead 2, and it looks better in Red Dead 2. And it's like, yeah, because the reason why it looks better is because it has more polygons, has like it's more detailed, but due to that, it's more resource heavy.
And we didn't even just replace old requirements, we just layered the new ones on top. Like, facial animation went from cutscenes only to every single line of dialogue in the game. So like, audience expect much more fidelity now, more animation.
I do. So that one was a good point though. The facial dialogue, it helps with immersion. So I will give them that one. I think that was a good point. I guess it's a problem of thinking social media is what normal people think. It's more what people will click on than what they think. Yeah. It's. I think it's using the wrong metrics to determine what the audience wants.
More world to discover, more voice lines. Accessibility standards are there now. Games have post-launch support now too. A PS2 character might have taken weeks, and now a modern hero character can take months once you factor in.
So there's always going to be design decisions that can help with the production cost. For example, like, going back to what he said about having every line needs to be, has to have facial animations that fits the dialogue. Like, you can design the game to kind of work with your budget. So if you can't afford to have, lip syncing facial animations, you can have like a portrait on the bottom, and like the character's mouth just kind of opens and closes as the dialogue gets played. There's always things you can do to cut costs. You don't always have to go with the most expensive thing and the best presentation. And these things do help with the immersion. Characters talking helps with immersion. The voices matching lips helps with immersion. But there's always going to be design choices, and this is where the role of designer matters the most, because design is all about solving problems. Design is about how to set things up to get the message across and also fit it within the budget. There must be a way to automate face animations. That's a tool worth making once using. Yeah, I'm pretty sure eventually there's going to be. There's already stuff right now. In fact, there were. I remember, like in Counter-Strike. This was like a long time ago. There was the technology to have the character's lips go up and down as you do voice chat. So it does exist, but it's just probably just not as good, especially with these higher detailed faces that exist that the AAA games use right now. So it's a matter of time of the technology, improving for these better looking faces.
The high poly sculpts, the hair placement, the cloth simulation, the scan data cleaning, all the dozens of blend shapes for their face for emotion, all the dozens of blend shapes for their face for emotional performance. Then you got to take all the other disciplines and multiply that across environment, VFX, etc. Games used to take like 1 year to make. Now you calculate that cost over 4 to 5 years minimum. Even at a conservative, fully loaded 12 to 15k per developer per month in the US. Let's pretend you can squeeze in the hardware costs, the software costs, the office space, the health insurance. Like, once you put that across 100-person team, you're still burning like many millions per quarter.
Yeah.
So this stuff really snowballs fast. At smaller budgets,
yeah, the biggest budget is going to be paying the people.
A game can sell okay. It can break even, maybe find a niche. Failure is survivable. You just pivot.
So what he just mentioned right there, the niche part, I think that is going to be the solution for smaller projects. Because when you have a bigger project, you have to have the most broad and wide appeal. And there are certain things you can do for broad appeal, mass appeal, universal appeal, but it's not going to have as strong of an audience as something that has a niche audience. A niche audience is always going to enjoy that thing more than something that's broad appeal. And a thing can only have such broad appeal. The broad appeal can only get so big.
Again, at 9-figure budgets, anything short of massive success looks like failure.
Yeah.
Only blockbusters count. Anything else just becomes real dangerous. And that kills variance. And once your variance disappears, then the entire industry starts behaving differently. And more games start copying the winners.
Once budgets start reaching those crazy scales, something...
That's indie. Small devs making games for gaps in the market. Yeah, I agree. Though there can be room for, like, what he described as the middle or double A. Definitely building upon that, just having the niche audience, but having the presentation that's comparable to AAA.
else starts to happen. The games, they get more complex and their expectations go up. We kind of talked about that already, but we haven't mentioned how games begin to inflate bigger to justify their cost. And when I mean bigger, I don't mean deeper. Because if your game costs $100 million to make, devs start to feel the pressure to justify why. So you get more maps, more systems, more collectibles, more progression elements. Someone says, let's add a crafting system. Someone else.
I was actually talking to a coworker at my warehouse job the other day. In fact, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Yeah, just talking to him yesterday about how all these games, these AAA games, have so much fluff to just waste your time. And he's this is a warehouse job, so this is just a regular dude. This guy's not a game developer or anything. He doesn't know anything behind game development. And he was telling me, like, he doesn't play side missions anymore. He quit playing side missions because he feels like they're all wasting his time. And he was talking about how he was playing Final Fantasy VII. I think Rebirth. I think that's the second one. And he was annoyed by a side mission where like he had to like help some kids like find a cat or something like that. I can't remember what he said, but it was like a meaningless side mission that added nothing to the the overall plot, add nothing to the main character's growth. It was like these just side NPCs, and you're just solving a random problem for them. And yeah, it's something for you to do, but ultimately, as a player, the player wants to do stuff that matter. They don't just want to do stuff, and that's a problem with all these things that Dell is pointing out over here. That all these things are just being added to the game. At a certain point, these things being added to the game are literally just designed to just waste your time. They're not designed to enrich the experience. They're not designed to make you care more about the world. They're just designed to have you do more stuff. I think a great example of a game that had you care more about the world with the side quests was Batman Arkham Knight, because when I played through that game, I didn't do the Riddler stuff. The Riddler stuff was, that I don't have time for that. But I did all the other side quests, and I felt like I was being Batman. When I did all those side quests, I was clearing up the city. I was controlling territories. I was doing things that would reduce the crime. And because all those things had an impact to the city, had an impact to the universe, and it felt like things Batman would do, it felt like it was worth my time. And that's the important thing. Those things are more important than just having tens or even hundreds of hours of extra things to do just to give the player the ability to do these things. And that's why people are tired of Ubisoft open world games, because they all have the same formula of, okay, you go to this area, you climb this thing, it unlocks a certain amount of the map. You can see all these things show up on your map now, and now you have all these collectibles and things to do that don't enrich the experience at all, and instead they just are things for you to do just so people won't complain that there's nothing to do. But in actuality, it's a big world with a bunch of nothing to do.
Says this game needs more RPG elements. Not always because the game design demanded it, but because the economics kind of did. So length becomes a marketing argument. Big scope becomes a defense mechanism. It's kind of a way of like signaling value in a very crowded marketplace. And to be honest, it kind of works. Massive games.
Yeah, that's exactly why all these things are added, is because unfortunately the mass audience of gamers, they equate the value of the game to how much replay value there is to it, how many hours they can put into the game. I've already mentioned how people have complained about my game being too short, despite it being $5. Right now it's on sale for $3.49. And even then they'll say, hey, this is not enough content. It's like, okay, I literally made $2 off of you, and you're not happy that I gave you a game that lasts 4 to 6 hours. Okay, anyways, regardless, the point being is that that's how people are going to justify the cost of the game. Is it going to last them so many hours? And everybody has a number in their head. Everybody's different. Some people, it's like a 30-hour experience. Some people, it's like an 80-hour experience. It's different. And because this is one of the number one complaints about games being too short or whatever, that's what directs the design of how much content is in the game. Like I was just seeing some posts about what's that game called? Not Final Fight. Fighting Force Collection. So this Fighting Force Collection that just came out. It's like a remake of let me open this up. Whoa, don't spill the coffee. Fighting Force Collection. Yeah. So Fighting Force. So yeah, this game, Fighting Force Collection, is Fighting Force 1 and 2. It just came out on limited, or just a couple of months ago. And I remember when this game came out back in the day on PlayStation, the number one complaint about this game is it was way too short. And that definitely mattered, especially back then, because you could beat this game in about an hour if you just go level to level and just try to beat it as quickly as possible. You could beat it in about an hour, and that was unacceptable back then. In fact, the original Metal Gear Solid, if you skip the cutscenes, it's about 7 hours long, and back then that was too short. And that was a complaint that people had back then for Metal Gear Solid. And the funny thing is, the Metal Gear games got longer and longer and longer. And nowadays, there's a larger group of people who want shorter games because they don't have time for games. So we have games like Metal Gear Solid 5, which is, 50 hours long. But then people are like, hey, I don't have time for this. Can I have a 10-hour experience? And they're kind of wanting the original Metal Gear Solid experience. Let's go back to this. Let me see what we got in this. One of the big complaints. Okay, let me go back here. One of the big complaints of Final Fantasy VII Remake was taking a 30-hour game and making it 3 30-hour games. Was it a 30-hour game? Because I feel like I spent hundreds of hours on the original Final Fantasy VII. I don't remember how long, but I remember I spent hundreds because there was just so much to do. I think 4 also seen. I think I've also seen Ubisoft say live service that long play time equals microtransactions. It's the mobile game logic of retaining players for money. Yeah, that definitely. Because if they're playing it more, then they're more in love with the game. And then if they're more in love with the game, they're more willing to spend money. But you also have the way how Ubisoft designs games. Like they have it so that it takes longer to unlock things unless you pay them money. Metal Gear Solid 4 had actual gameplay length complaints. Metal Gear Solid 4 also, like, the last cutscene is literally like a full-length movie. It's at least 90 minutes long. I think it's longer than that. But I remember I was playing Metal Gear Solid 4 at my brother's place because I didn't have a PS4 and I really wanted to play Metal Gear Solid 4. So I played it and I was like, am I near the end of the game? He was like, do you have time? I was like, I'm going to just beat the game, right? He was like, you have you need to, if you want to beat the game, you need to sit here for a while. And that's how he explains to me. He didn't want to spoil it for me, but he was saying, like, if you want to leave quickly, don't play this last level. Don't play this last boss fight. Too short and too much cutscenes. Yeah, too many cutscenes.
Do get noticed. Just look at Crimson Desert. So games stretch. 8 hours become 20, 20-hour games become 60. Not always because the experience needed it, but because the budget kind of did. So once that expectation starts setting in, smaller games start looking like risky bets to publishers. Not because they're bad.
Bro, these aren't bad games.
I'm talking about
arcade races, extreme sports games.
Yeah, we don't see like street basketball, like these arcade games anymore. Maybe sometimes on like the made by smaller indie devs, but we don't see them made by like EA anymore. We don't see them being made by big publishers.
10-hour action games. Way harder to justify.
Spec Ops: The Line is a fantastic game. Is it still on? I think it might have got removed from Steam. Let's look real quick. Spec Ops: The Line. I think it got removed, unfortunately. Let's go to GOG. Spec Ops: The Line was fantastic. Let's there we go. No. Unfortunately, I think it was a THQ game. So that might be why it's gone. Who developed it? Or who published it? 2K? Developed by Jaeger, 2K. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know why they. Maybe it was because the music that was in there, they had to get rid of it. But fantastic game. If you're able to play this game, I highly recommend it. You see the end of every chapter was like that. You know, on Switch, I think. All right, let's get back here.
An investment. So they get pushed down to indie teams. But with more games than ever, getting seen is harder than ever. But hang on a minute though, didn't you say fewer games are getting funded? So how are there more games? Well, because most of them aren't funded properly.
Yeah.
In 2013, 400 games hit Steam. Now it's 20,000 a year. That didn't come from investors.
Well,
it came from...
The thing is, though, yeah, this is definitely true. But the thing about these numbers is that the majority of these games, no one ever gets to see, because yeah, the numbers are true that we have all these games coming out on Steam, but a lot of them are shovelware. A lot of them are just slop. A lot of them are asset flips. A lot of them are, now we have like, AI generated games. And when a game doesn't get 10 reviews on Steam, the Steam algorithm will assume that the game is just slop, and no one really gets to see it. Very few people will see it, but unless you search for it intentionally, you're not going to find it for the most part. So yeah, the number's true, but Steam has developed their algorithm so that you avoid seeing the worst of the worst.
Solo devs, hobbyists, tiny teams, burning savings, students, crowdfunding, asset flips. These are people funding their dreams on credit cards and struggle. Most won't make a profit. That's not a healthy ecosystem. That's developers taking all the risk with no support. Let me make one thing clear. I love a good small indie game, but I know some of them would be amazing if they were funded out of a shoestring budget and into mid-tier. I just wish mid-tier wasn't so cursed. When I say death of the middle, I mean 3 middles. You got your budget middle, team size middle, and most importantly, discoverability middle. Storefront algorithms, they're the one kind of determining visibility now.
You talk about, you said, don't know that's a good thing. That's how studios are. Or you talk about the fact that they are underfunded, like what he was just saying a second ago. Because that's what I'm assuming that you're talking about. And I mean, to that point, yeah. I mean, I'll wait and see what's okay. Yeah. So yeah, to that point, I do agree with that because it's all part of the learning process. Um, because if things were easy from the get go, we we don't learn from it. Nexus Defenders, I released. What is it at? Steam. Let's go back here. Nexus Defenders. I released that game, and while it was a financial flop, I learned so much from it. That's why my next game, Beware Tomorrow. I mean, I think it's still gonna be a short game. Don't get me wrong. This is still gonna be a short game. I'm not gonna lie and say this is gonna be like a long game with lots of content in it. But the reason why this game is going to exist is because I learned so much from Nexus Defenders. I learned lots of things due to the fact that I made this mostly on my own. I did have assistance with some technical issues, but it was a solo developed game. I not only learned to complete a game on my own, but also I learned about picking the genre before I even start working on the game, market research, reaching out to influencers, and due to the fact that I had no budget, I was like what Dell said, my only budget is my credit card. Due to that, I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. And yeah, it's learning the hard way isn't the most ideal. Like, you probably want to have someone help guide you, but I don't have anybody help guide me. And I learned a lot of stuff through this, and this is why I completely changed genres for Beware Tomorrow. Try and make a game that has a larger audience. Horror games have a niche audience. So yeah, my local uni got students to group up and publish a game as a final project on Steam. Having a history of published games is what gets your foot in the door for work, and you may get an audience. Yeah, I totally agree. And like the whole process is a learning process. It is rough, but I think the bigger problem is more that's like, once somebody like has multiple games, like they get 2 or 3 games on Steam, and then still haven't found the funding. At a certain point, they might just step away from game development because getting the funding is so rough, and we gotta pay the bills. We got to feed the family and pay rent, and it becomes a reality that okay, maybe game development isn't really something I can really do at the moment, at least right now. That's why I haven't worked on Beware Tomorrow for over a year now. It's been over a year since I really touched the game. I'm trying to get back into it though. Let's get back to what Dell has to say.
If you got tens of thousands of games releasing annually, attention didn't scale at that rate. So discoverability becomes the new bottleneck. It's not really just about who's making a good game now. It's about who's breaking through that saturation. So now,
and that's exactly why I even made this channel, because for me to sell games, I need to have an audience. And I need to do something to start cultivating an audience. Talking about only my game is not going to cultivate an audience, because there's a lot that comes to audience building, especially with algorithms and social media. There's so much to it, and that's one of the main reasons why I started doing this type of stuff. So yeah, I agree. There's a lot to try to get yourself to stand out, but it goes even further beyond that. I don't know if he's going to mention this or not, but even if you grab their attention, you're still fighting for their attention, because then you have to have a strong start to the game. You have to, the game needs to pull them in. It can't be too boring. You only have so long to keep their attention, and then they might, quit or even return the game, because Steam has a 2-hour return policy. So, there's more than just standing out to the other games. If you do pre-programming, you're always better paid in software stuff or mobile. Yeah, I agree that software is going to pay programmers better.
You got projects getting
And that's I'm not really a programmer though. I mean, this is, you probably already know this, Liam, but for the rest of the audience, I'm more of a designer rather than a programmer. So, for designers, it's rough finding work outside of game design, because it's hard to apply game design skills. That's why I branched beyond game design and started doing graphics design as well. That's why I teach graphics design, and I do like YouTube thumbnails and stuff like that for people to try to expand beyond game design to get more jobs.
Polarized. You got tiny and cheap with small cost risk, or massive and impossible to ignore. And that middle becomes radioactive. The real cost is this. The middle wasn't just a budget tier, it was a learning tier. It used to be where studios would try things. From Software didn't win Game of the Year with Elden Ring out of nowhere. They built Kingsfield. There's like 3 sequels of that janky game. Then they got to Eternal Ring, then Demon Souls, then Dark Souls. Then the masterpiece comes across, Bloodborne. That doesn't happen if you don't get a chance to like kind of fail and try stuff out. That middle space is where all the visionaries mature, and when that space disappears, we don't just lose games, we lose like whole genres that evolve. We lose new bangers we never even asked for.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can't really jump from going indie to having AA, without having the funding. You're gonna have to grow your studio so steadily to get to that point, and having funding is really important. That's why it was ridiculous when people were, or when they were trying to claim that High Guard is indie. And in my first High Guard video, I said they have to have some sort of venture capitalists to fund the game. There has to be somebody giving them money, because there's no way you can have a studio of around 100 developers be independent. Like, who's paying them? The studio heads could not have saved up enough money to like pay out of their pockets, pay the wages of all 100 developers for 4 years or however long it took them to develop it. There's no way. So that's why in my first video, I was like, they had to have venture capitalists. I was kind of right, but I was wrong. It was actually funding from a conglomerate, a tech conglomerate, which is Tencent. And so like that's how you fund, that's how you get these studios funded, is you need to have like some sort of a external source of money. From Software is almost 40 years old. It's slow growth. Yeah, definitely. High Guard went from 0 to massive overnight. That's the problem with investment with no slow growth. I see what your point, though. Yeah, with High Guard, they started off at like instantly trying to do a brand new studio. But there should also be room for something in the middle. You don't need to be a From Software taking decades to get to your size, and also, like the opposite extreme of, just High Guard. Just we're gonna have 100 people leave Respawn to make this new studio. I mean, could there be something in the middle? Like having a indie studio, tens of people. Okay, we want to double in size. Let's have 20-ish people. That's going to be a little rough to do organically. This I just remember the game that came out, Reloaded. This game. Like, ends up they were being funded by I don't know, France or Italy. It was some European funding was going towards this, and I knew from the beginning that they were being there was money. I did one video on Reloaded, and I said there had to have been somebody funding this, because you look at their previous game, Semblance. This is a puzzle platformer, and it was made by 3 people. 3 people worked on this game. There's no way you go from 3 people, working on this game, and then you suddenly have 30 people working on what is all this sounds going off? Anyways, then you have 30 people all of a sudden working on this game. I mean, first of all, the quality doesn't look like it's 30 people, but the point being, you increase the size of the studio by 10. There had to have been money. I do get it's mixed. There needs to be a balance, some more risk taking. I suppose part of the problem is how funding is right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think there needs to be more you pitch a game to a publisher, say, hey, look, we're a small indie studio, got 5 people. We need to hire a few more people to get this project going. Increase our size from 5 to 15 or something like that. Here's our vertical slice. I think there needs to be more room for those opportunities, because now those opportunities have dried up. There are less of those opportunities now than there were, back a couple decades ago. Let's get back to Dell, see what he has in his closing statements. Dell, you got to add some timestamps to your video. Why you have no timestamps, bro? Good video, but get some timestamps going. Also, the outdoor stuff, I get what you're doing, but it's not necessary. You don't need to go outdoors for all your videos. Anyways, let's get going.
I don't know the solution to save mid-tier games, but I know live service isn't it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just gambling with a studio.
Exactly.
Indie can't carry the industry, and AAA alone can't sustain it. So we need AA, because if the middle dies, you don't build hits. You just get lucky.
Let's turn off the music. I think it was a good video, especially for his first video. I think he had some good production value on this video. That definitely, he's getting some good numbers for his first video. I don't even get those numbers anymore. 6,000 views. I have a hard time getting numbers now. He's definitely gonna grow his channel pretty quickly. Let's switch over here. Overall, I think that was a good video. I disagree with it, especially. So the main thing I disagree with him on is the expectations thing. The expectations point he was making. Yes, there are expectations to be met, but I think publishers and developers need to prioritize the important expectations. The important expectations are, the gameplay loop, the presentation not being janky. Like it doesn't need to have the best motion capture cutscenes. Like some of these things can be worked without. Like maybe if you can't afford having full motion fully mocapped cutscenes, do something else like having like comic book cutscenes, something that looks stylish. What was that game called? Infamous. Infamous had comic book cutscenes. Let me see. Infamous comic cutscenes. Yeah, so let's get back to this. So I'm gonna have the sound off, but this is Infamous from PS3. Like, there was basically talking, and then just motion comic cutscenes. This was cool. A lot of people like this. It was very stylish. Doing something like this is cool. You don't need to have fully mocapped cutscenes. I was going didn't know it was first video for first time. It's amazing. I was going to complain about lack of data and cherry picking games, but it's first video, so first one. It's really well done. Yeah, I agree. He did a good job. I'm glad that he's on YouTube now, doing videos. Bunch of games did comic book cutscenes, save money. Used to be normal. Age as well. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I think so. Yeah, the one thing that I'm gonna critique Dell's video on is like he ended it with saying I don't have any solutions, and I think throwing at least one solution would be helpful, like just spitballing things, and I think the major thing that would help the direction of saving the budget is to just ignore the loud voices who are complaining about the things that increase the budget the most. He listed off the things that increase the budget the most, and those things can be worked around. You don't need to have a lot of those things that increase the budget so much. And a lot of those are cinematic related. Having well-known voice actors, having celebrities, having known Hollywood actors, and then having fully mocapped voice acting. Those things increase the budget so much. You don't need to have those. What do you guys think? What do you guys think, chat? Do you agree? Anything else I'm missing that might be increasing the budget? Let's see. How far am I in this? Oh, one and a half hours. Right on time. Yeah, as we're wrapping this up. So one thing, let me grab where to go. Delete that. There we go. Here we go. Bring this over here. So before I wrap things up, I want to I'm gonna ask you. Oh, they used to just get devs to do mocap stuff, grab Dave and make him act, do stuff. Yeah. Speaking of which, like, what's that game called? Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia. The not the Sands of Time, but what's that called? It's not mocap. It's I'm blanking on the word when they draw on top of the like the real life footage. I'm blanking. What's the term? What's the term when drawing an animation over real life footage? Rotoscoping. Prince of Persia, rotoscoping. So let me see if I could grab. There we go. Let's get this on screen real quick. All right. So the developer of Prince of Persia, the original. Yeah. Thank you, Liam. Rotoscope. Yeah. So let's get this on screen. So Jordan, this is his official account. So basically, he recorded his brother. Yeah, he recorded his brother, and then he drew on top of the footage to rotoscope all that. So all this is like his brother he recorded. Like you don't need to get some top tier voice actors. In fact, I have some friends who are like, "Hey, let me do voices for your next game." And I'm like, "Okay, let's get that going." So hopefully one of my friends is going to do a voice or two for Beware Tomorrow. But yeah, you totally bring up a good point, Liam, that just you don't need to. There are always going to be people. I mean, it doesn't need to be the extreme of like get Jerry from accounting to do voices. You can get people, voice actors who have less experience, but the potential to do pretty well. Like you find people on freelance websites, and they can do pretty well. They don't have to be a well-known person. So I want to ask you guys real quick. So for next week, where is this? So next week, let's go to videos. So let's go to transition. All right. I saw this video show up in my feed. I think it was yesterday. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I want to talk about that. But I already, set up everything to do the live reaction to Dell's video. So this is real life fake wizard. He doesn't just talk about video game. He talks about entertainment. So he's more entertainment rather than video games. And video is specifically movies, but I'm definitely interested in this too many satanic movies. I feel like that also applies to video games too. But what do you guys think? Give me a 1 in chat if you think I should do that next week, do a live reaction to that, or a 2 in chat if no, you're not interested. Let's do a quick poll. Okay, am I able to do a poll? To start a poll. Yes, no. Yeah, let me do a quick poll. Should I do this Hollywood satanic video? And let's post it. Oh, it's there. Start poll. Let's do the poll. Let's do the poll. I'll keep it up for like a minute. We'll see what you guys have to say. That's can-do attitude of a small team. Just work out something, get it done. had to step away, but bad voice acting was a highlight for PS1 era of games. Yeah. You almost turned into a Jill sandwich. Okay, you voted yes. So let me get this off screen real quick so I can look at my calendar. Next week, next week I don't work on my my warehouse job on Tuesday, so next week should be fine. Same time. I'll start it on time next week, 10 a.m. So we're looking good as far as having the live stream be 10 a.m. Central Time next Tuesday. Anyways, let's see. What's the 100% yes? Only one vote though. Only one vote. Come on, guys. Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. Before I forget, please leave a like on this live stream. That would really help out the algorithm for this video. If you want to do a super chat, go ahead and do it before I wrap things up. That's always welcome. If you don't want to or you can't afford to do it, totally fine. I totally understand. But please do the like on the video. And I appreciate everybody who was. Let me get this off my head. I don't need that in my head anymore. I'm done listening to stuff. Yeah. I totally appreciate everybody who took part of the chat. Let's see. 2 votes. Both say yes. All right, sure. We're going to do that next week. We're going to do a live reaction to Too Many Satanic Movies. Personally, I feel like there is a glorification of demonic things in media, not just movies, but in music and also games. There's I guess with games there's also like it's not really a glorification, but there's a heavy use as well as a glorification of demonic things. Like for example, Doom. I don't think Doom glorifies it. Doom, you're going around killing demons, but I think there's a fine line with that too, because there is the possibility of making the demons too cool. And I think that can be a problem, making the demons too cool. Which can be glorifying them, but there is definitely I do think that there's a glorification in Hollywood with demonic, but we're gonna see what real life fake wizard has to say next week. Few games let you be evil. Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be, if you do evil stuff, there should be like repercussions. There should be a message of like, hey, you're doing this evil stuff, but look at all the terrible you're doing, rather than, oh, I offed this person and now I get $2,000 extra dollars than if I were to do a handshake with them. I only get $200, something like that. But anyways, we'll go into that next week. We're wrapping things up right now. I appreciate all of you guys for being here, especially Cosgrove, Liam, and there was one other person in here that may be gone, but Moi Gamma 5019. Yeah, thanks to all you guys joining, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Salam.